Hello and the warmest of welcomes to this a brand new episode of Mason Makes Music. I'm your humble host Miles Mason, and this is a show where we have a little fun with the songwriting process. Now in today's episode we're going to be doing something a little bit different for the channel. We're going to be making a hip hop beat, and essentially my friend Tom left his guitar around here the other night, and though I'm not a guitarist, as you'll soon see, I came up with a little riff that I knew I'd like to sample for today's episode. So we're going to be chopping up that sample, adding some drums, and then just adding some bass line and some extra accompanying bits to diversify the sound. So without further ado, let's get to making some music, shall we? Okay, so first things first, we have the guitar part that we have to chop up and arrange. So here's the performance of that video. Earlier, I'm not quite the guitarist, but I managed to get something sampled here. As you can see, I've recorded this into Reaper initially, and I just got a bunch of takes that I went through, and I'm just going to chop up and find the best 4-part pattern of it. So I believe that this is the best sequence so far here. That'll work. We'll cut that up now, so I'm just going to zoom in a little bit just to get a better idea of the sound waves we've got working with here. Okay, so I'm going to bring that up. This is going to be a very boring part of the video, I am sure. And essentially I just want to get as close as I can to just a 4-bar pattern, a very clean one. So I'm going to try and find the tail end here. In fact, actually, I'm going to try from here. Okay, so we're going to cut that bit there. I'm sure Reaper's not the best software to be doing this kind of process, but we've got the sample there now. That'll work now. So just really quickly, I'm just going to show you what I used on VST-wise to get the tone of that guitar. So as with most episodes, I'm using Amplitude 4, which is a really fantastic bit of software. As I mentioned before, it just replicates a lot of classic amplifiers, and I'm using the Twin Reverb by Fender for this guitar tone. And I've got the reverb set up a little bit with a low intensity on that reverb, just to give it a really nice kind of surf rock kind of vibe, and I think it works really nicely for it. I'm also using a very small amount of EQ on here, and that's everything for that. I'm going to keep it very sparse, and I'm just going to arrange this a little bit now, and then we'll get on to making the beat. So on to the next part. Alright, so that's the foundation of the song laid. That is the sample, and essentially what I'm going to do now is make a very simple beat over here in Machine. I'm going to bounce that over to Reaper and then start adding stuff with my microKORG. So let's make this a little beat, and unfortunately I don't have the sample in Machine right now, so I'm just going to kind of play it from head and hopefully get the right tempo, so wish me luck. Alright, so that'll work. That is the beat done. I'm going to just give this a little tidy up whilst I'm in Machine and then bounce it over. And the next part you'll see is the beat in Reaper, and then we can start building up the rest of the track. Now this is going to be quite a quick fire video, not as long as my last week's video, but I think that's going to be nice, just a nice little change. So on to doing the synthesizer sections, I suppose. So that's all the guitar and the drums chopped up. I've got that arranged over here in Reaper, and let's have a listen how it sounds so far. Quite a kind of cool groove to it. I don't want to add too much more to this song. I want to keep it quite simple, but the next thing I want to add is some bell tones that sounds a little bit like this. So just a simple kind of counter melody, just to add a bit more high end to the sound and just to diversify the sonic texture a little bit. So let's get that recorded right now. Alright, so that's that counter melody done. That's just something I wanted to add just to diversify the sound a little bit and just to keep it a little bit fresh. And the next thing I want to add is some bass guitar, some live bass guitar. So I'm going to go and work on a little pattern and then I'll come over and record that. And after that, there won't be really too much more to add. I think I might add just a couple of extra items for texture. So let's get on to bass, shall we? Okay, so one of the final elements I wanted to get added today is a little bit of a bass guitar section. Now it's going to be quite a simple repeating bass line that just supports the main guitar melody, and it'll just add a little bit more low end to the mix and give it a bit more drive. So just before I do, I'm using amplitude 4 once again to get my bass guitar tone here, and this is a really classic amplitude Ampeg bass amp, so it's got a really nice tone to it and I think it'll work really nicely for this song. So let's get it recorded, shall we? So that's the bass guitar recorded. That's like the final element I want to get done today. I'm going to play around on my microchord just before I finish to see if I can come up with any nice textural stuff just to add to the sound. So bass guitar done. Woo! So I had a little play around on my microchord and I came up with a little extra part that I'd like to add to the song. Now this is going to be one of the last elements I'm going to add. After this I'm going to add some hand percussion just to give it a bit more life and a bit more energy. So let's get this recorded now, shall we? And let's get this song almost finished up. Alright then guys, so the last thing I wanted to get added to this song is just a little bit of something on the old hand drum, just to add a little bit of texture and a bit more drive to this song, so we're going to get that recorded right now. Alright then guys, so that's everything I want to get recorded today for this week's episode of Mason Makes Music, and once again, this was an absolute blast for me. I have so much fun with the songwriting process, and today it was something a little bit different. I've never worked with a sample before, so it was interesting to just kind of start out with something and just build up the layers as you went along. So I do hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. Once again, I just really appreciate you guys for tuning in. It means more than you could ever know, and I think the only thing left to do is play the beat, but before we do, please subscribe to the channel and check out my Instagram, all links down below. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next episode.